In 2009, motorsport enthusiasts watching the American Le Mans Series race at Laguna Seca witnessed something truly special. An epic battle waged on between two established brands and drivers that would eventually go down as one of the best GT racing battles in the history of sports car endurance racing. So as the next IMSA race approaches, for this video, let's go back in time to revisit that epic GT2 battle for the win at one of America's most iconic circuits, now known as WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. The 2009 race at Laguna Seca would be the final round in that year's calendar of the ALMS season, and what a finale it was. Up at the front in the prototype field, Acura cars dominated the race, and eventually finished in first, second, and third overall, with the now iconic number 66 DeFerrin Motorsports ARX02 winning this race overall, while the number 9 Acura did enough to win the title. But the attention was mainly on the fight in the GT2 class, as the battle for the win would be extremely intense, especially on the final lap, as things would get very dramatic, but more on that in a moment. The fight in GT2 across the sports car endurance race in California would involve Porsche's Flying Lizard Motorsports and Chevrolet's Corvette Racing, and the drivers involved would be Jorg Bergmeister for Flying Lizard Motorsports and Jan Magnussen for Corvette Racing. Flying Lizard Motorsports had already won the title heading into this 2009 venue, as they beat fellow rivals Ferrari and Risi Competizione across the season, where Porsche's main rivals during this race, Corvette Racing, weren't in the championship hunt at all, as the factory cars were originally a part of the GT1 category, before Corvette switched to GT2 at Mid-Ohio for the 6th round of the season. As for the drivers, Bergmeister and Magnussen were already decorated GT racers heading into this race. One of Bergmeister's big achievements was winning the 2003 edition of the 24 Hours of Daytona overall in the Racer Group's Porsche 911, and he was also involved in another iconic GT finish at the 12 Hours of Sebring 2 years before in 2007. Meanwhile, Magnussen by now had won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in class 4 times, and was a former F1 driver as well. And by the way, in case you weren't aware, Jan is the father of Kevin Magnussen, who is also a former F1 driver and currently races the BMW M Hybrid V8 in the WEC and IMSA. For the 2009 Laguna Seca race, Jan Magnussen would qualify on pole in the number 3 Corvette, which proved how competitive those C6Rs really were, while Jorg Bergmeister's number 45 Flying Lizard Porsche would be starting in 5th. During the race, the two Corvettes would take the leading positions at the start, while Bergmeister's Porsche would slot into 4th behind the Risi Competizione Ferrari. But things would change following a crash at the Andretti hairpin in the race, which would give the number 4 Corvette damage and take it out of contention for the win, and eventually the Risi Competizione Ferrari would also face drama, with the number 62 car having a puncture and it also being taken out of contention for the win. Therefore, as the race progressed, the battle at the front soon became a fight between the number 3 Corvette and the number 45 Porsche. And the highlights of this battle were really during the final 10 minutes of this event, as Magnussen and Bergmeister produced some of the most exciting and wild action in the history of GT competition, as I'll prove in just a moment. In the final laps of this race, the Flying Lizard Porsche was ahead of the Corvette Racing entry, and it was clear that Magnussen had the faster car, but Bergmeister showed the true definition of a defensive drive, as he held the faster C6R behind, once again proving the talent of the German racer. Magnussen tried almost every possible tactic of getting past the Porsche, and he was courageous in his overtakes too, like when this move happened where the Porsche and Corvette split the GT traffic, with Magnussen trying to move around the outside of turn 2 to get ahead, but yet again Bergmeister defended the lead. Magnussen was pressurizing the Porsche at almost every single corner as well, and with 3 laps to go, he actually got past at one point, with Bergmeister not being able to defend that time round down the main straight. But that wasn't the end of the battle, as the Corvette overtook off track and the officials forced Magnussen to give the position back to Bergmeister. Since he had to give the position back to his rival, Magnussen now had to overtake the Porsche again in order for Corvette Racing to win on the circuit back then known as Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. But this time, the Danish racer only had a few opportunities to pull off a move because there were only 2 laps to go. On the penultimate lap in this class, no change was made despite pressure from Magnussen, and with the overall win in the prototype field now decided, the attention fully switched to the sensational battle in GT2, as Magnussen tried to move around the outside at the Andretti hairpin once again, as pictured on screen. But again, Bergmeister held on to the lead with an incredible defense. As the cars approached the final corner on the final lap, Magnussen was way too far back to make a send for the victory. But a little bit of contact forced Bergmeister wide and gave the Corvette a run. Now it was a drag race to the line, with Bergmeister forcing Magnussen towards the wall, and drama eventually struck, as both made contact sending Magnussen into the wall, but spinning across the line to still finish this race. And eventually, the race concluded with Flying Lizard's Porsche and Jörg Bergmeister successfully taking the checkered flag first and finishing ahead to win at Laguna Seca. This was an incredible and dramatic finish to an epic sports car season in the American Le Mans Series. And surprisingly, even though the car was heavily damaged and would not be able to continue if the race was still going, the number 3 Corvette would still secure second because it crossed the line. But ultimately, the team did lose out to Porsche and Flying Lizard Motorsports, as Jörg Bergmeister and Patrick Lawn would win this race in classic old-school racing fashion, between Porsche's 911 and Chevrolet's Corvette C6R. So ultimately, that year's battle at Laguna Seca and that dramatic finish involving Porsche and Corvette was hands down one of the greatest racing battles in the history of sports car racing. So as another sports car venue at Laguna Seca is about to begin, it was great to revisit that epic GT2 finish that happened in 2009. But now I want to know what your thoughts are regarding that battle. Do you remember it happening? Was this your first time hearing about it? Or did you attend the event in person in 2009? Well, be sure to let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And like I said, I'm very interested to know what you think.